I'm not going to spend a lot of time right here, right now. This is to kind of give you a visual representation for where we're going and what I'm talking about. So there's 4 phases in this model: trait identification, solutions-focused therapy, entrepreneurial opportunities, and leadership development. And we'll go a little bit deeper in just a moment, but right now we're going to look at some of the guiding principles of this model. So it's person-centered and dynamic. It builds upon a positive understanding, beginning with the person's assets as opposed to their deficiencies. It is holistic, meaning that it addresses the whole person and also incorporates external supports right into that treatment plan. And it is transformative, entirely transformative. And another set of principles is this. We believe that treatment should not be rigid, or recovery should not be rigid. Whatever works is fine. I'm part of the Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission in Kentucky, and we conducted a series of 12 town halls all the way from Pikeville to Paducah, all across the state. And what we kept telling people, right, at these town halls is submit something that is innovative and creative, something that will change your communities, and we'll look at it and we'll roll with it. And honestly, that's where we're at, right? That is the current state of things, so to speak. And so that's another guiding principle of the model, and it's best supported. Recovery is best supported through relationships. Isolation made us sick. And we cannot remain in recovery isolated. We've got to connect to others, even when we don't feel like it. That's healthy, it's productive, and it can in fact help us step out of active addiction and put us on the pathway towards recovery. And so this model includes individual strengths, family strengths, and community strengths. And recovery, lastly, is an ongoing path of self-realization, self-improvement, and social engagement. Recovery never ends. Now, back to our model. So at the foundation of this model is the identification of traits that each person possesses. And so the trait-based model has at its core the path of self-awareness and how that understanding can be shared with others and connected to purpose. And so this begins by identifying the traits that we all possess. Now, this can be done in a variety of ways, right? Most notably, it is done in cooperation with a clinician that is using various assessment tools. It's also accomplished through practices of self-actualization or discovery, things such as meditation, journaling, contemplative prayer. And there's even a space within this for plant medicine. The studies currently are very, very promising to look at root causes and what promotes neurogenesis. And so it's this path of getting to know who we really are. And so the clinician would then employ a solutions-focused therapeutical approach, which is focused on the future, it's goal-oriented, and of course it's evidence-based. The client is then connected with entrepreneurial opportunities. And this allows for a broad application of those traits in various ways. And when I say entrepreneurial opportunities, I don't just mean business entrepreneurial opportunities. We're talking about nonprofit volunteerism. We're talking about social justice initiatives. We're talking about ministerial opportunities, laying open wide the room and the world of possibility and opportunity for those in recovery. We're going to go take a deeper dive in just a moment into each one of these phases, but we're kind of getting acclimated to what we're discussing right now. And so the Leadership Academy, another vital component of this model of recovery, is built specifically for those in recovery, and I'll go over all the content areas in just a second. It's very, very exciting. But what I want you to look at now, remember the 10 traits. The evidence-based approach, which shares and suggests and supports the idea that people with substance use disorder have these traits operating within their lives. And central to the trait-based model of recovery is this. This is transformational leadership and self-actualization process. So, all of these traits have both a shadow side or a negative side or a destructive side, however you want to label it, and they also have a positive side or a light side or a productive side. And of course, we're borrowing a little bit from Carl Jung here when we talk about the shadow self. But when these traits are used negatively, all of them, we'll go through them in just a second. When they're used negatively, when they're functioning in a negative fashion, right, they function to maintain addictive behavioral patterns. And on the positive side, on the light side, they function to empower the recovery journey. So we'll look at some examples here. So guys, these traits are present at birth. They're inherent qualities that are possessed by those that are in addiction, right? And if they're not identified or supported at an early age, they can quickly run off course, especially when they're hijacked by drugs. And so the goal of this model is to use these traits on the productive side, right? And so let's just walk through them. Tenacity. On the light side, a tenacious person is goal-focused, right? But on the negative side, they become socially disruptive. Tenacious in their requests for more. Tenacious in not getting help. Tenacious to find a way when they need a way. Resilience. Another quality. It's a never-give-up attitude, right? And it repeats on the negative fashion or on the shadow side. This resiliency is demonstrated in addiction, right? It's demonstrated. I've experienced it in my life. 17 years of active addiction. I was arrested 18 times. I've nearly overdosed 4 times. I have been raided by the police twice. But I can say I was resilient. Empathy. Empathy is an emergent trait. It's a secondary quality. It's different from sympathy because empathy is the bonding or the connection that occurs when we are able to enter into the plight, the pain, or the suffering of someone else. And people in addiction and addiction recovery are experts at this because we've traveled the way of hardship, because empathy has been cultivated through failure, through heartache, through brokenness, right? And it's compassion in action. In recovery, man, people like this are exceptional world-class leaders. However, on the negative side, it can get very manipulative. This ability to connect and to identify and to understand the emotional state of others, we learn this, right, in active addiction, and we optimize it. We maximize it for our personal gain. We will manipulate others so that they will do what we want them to do. Authenticity, right? It's transparent with weaknesses. This is vital for those of us in recovery. We can't wear the mask anymore. We have to be honest with ourselves, honest with our friends and family, co-workers, peers, our loved ones, and it's a valuable characteristic. And actually, this does have a negative side when you're talking about uncontrolled responses to difficulties. When you're talking about when our emotions just land all over the map, uncontrolled, unmanaged, right? It can become destructive and motivational, right? Is another quality on the previous slide. People in recovery inspire others. However, in active addiction, it can lead others to danger. You're looking at now self-awareness. On the positive side, self-aware people know when they make mistakes. Self-aware people know when there's room for improvement and they know what to improve upon. People who are self-aware are transparent with their vulnerabilities, right? And this is entirely advantageous when it comes to leadership because you're admitting mistakes. And here's one thing about leadership. It's no longer the most effective approach to take an authoritarian approach, right? A do as I say, not do as I do type of mentality. in our society and what we've experienced. And honestly, this is a result of so many ethical failures by our governmental leaders, religious leaders, social leaders. We've seen so much. Now we appreciate those who are honest with us, those who are sincere, those who are open about their shortcomings and invite us in to participate on the path of improvement. Man, that's the type of leader that's most effective in our world today. And so obviously those in recovery are geared towards this, right? Creativity is another trait. In recovery, you find solutions. The positive side of this trait, or the light side of this trait, you find solutions. And on the negative side, we remain in denial. We become very creative with the absurd excuses that we make to say we're really not that bad. To say that you're not the problem. No, to say that I'm not the problem. Perhaps you're the problem. Social intelligence, this cultivates relationships on the positive side, right? We understand each other, but there again, kind of like manipulation, it attempts to control others, right? Determination, on the light side, the positive side, the productive side, it's a strong commitment to accomplish goals, right? But obviously on the shadow side or the negative side, you're going to use despite the risk that it incurs. And appreciation, right? And people in recovery fully cultivate and develop this characteristic. Unfortunately, in active addiction, it's only present when using. And so how do you stay on the light side? Well, number one, it takes work. Number two, it takes learning to be present in the moment. Present in the moment. It's not fretting over past mistakes or worrying about the unknowns of tomorrow. It's about being right here, right now. Because this is where self-discovery takes place. This is where leadership takes place. It's in the present moment. And we, through this model, teach that in all stages, right? And to stay on the light side, it takes honest dialogue with others, to be honest with ourselves. And it takes acknowledging who we really are and not trying to hide from it or run from it in denial, but learning from it. So back to the trait identification phase. And now I want to say something about this model. It's not sequential, right? You don't have to go numerically from step or phase 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a dynamic model, meaning that it's interactive. You can be carrying out multiple phases of this model at the same time, right? So it's continuously informing itself, improving itself. So again, the trait identification, this is most notably accomplished through therapy, through strength-based assessments, meditation, spiritual or self-actualization practices. It's connecting to others and allows the person to realize their unique set of traits and identify which ones need to be developed more fully in the entrepreneurial stage, which Brian will share about in just a moment. And again, to solutions-focused therapy. This is therapy that's focused on solutions instead of problems and putting those solutions into action. And this therapeutical approach is brief, yet it's effective, right? Lasting anywhere from a few sessions up to 8 weeks, which ultimately reduces cost and makes it a bit more affordable. Also, this type of therapeutical approach develops critical thinking and leads to empowerment. Now, the Leadership Academy. Again, all phases are vital in this model, but this to me is something really, really special because of what it covers and what it includes. So it's an 8-week curriculum initially, and it can be customized to fit residential treatment settings, IOP, or outpatient. And the curriculum actually is very robust. And so within the academy, clients learn how to use their traits positively or productively. They're going to be doing that in all stages of the model, but it's fully understood and practiced in the Leadership Academy. And then it's put into play in entrepreneurial opportunities. It works like a charm, magically together, just continually becoming more robust and refined. And so the curriculum is created specifically, again, for those in recovery. It includes such skills as critical thinking, decision-making, time management, communication. Topics also cover diversity, inclusion, social intelligence. It covers subjects in business management, ethics, financing, networking, coaching for interviews and public speaking. It includes internships and job shadowing. And this Leadership Academy is a collaborative learning environment with empowerment as one of its goals. And so this 8-week curriculum actually can be progressed through in cohorts. So after you complete an 8-week period in this academy, a client would have the option to continue with a cohort into the next 8-week period, which is more advanced levels of learning in all of these areas. And it can be repeated another time for a total of 24 weeks at different stages, cohorts moving together as a group, right, and going into more advanced topics within those content areas. And what this does, this helps keep clients committed to treatment. We know how important it is to keep the client in the residential treatment facility within the setting. And we know the barriers that are presented by the insurance reimbursements. This right here is a lucrative appeal not only to the clients who wish to remain in treatment, but also it allows treatment providers to look externally for resource development. It looks to the communities who are looking for transformative and authentic leaders to step into their organizations and improve it. And so this is a very dynamic and continually improving component as well in this model. And it results at the end in a certificate of completion, which equips graduates with valuable credentials. Now, entrepreneurial opportunities, and I'll let my colleague up here in just a second. So a successful entrepreneur is a great storyteller. They know how to captivate their audience and build a brand around their story. And there's no better story than the comeback story. The underdog who wins against all odds. We love it. It's built into our DNA. And this story is told through our lives, through our words, through our behavior, right? And so once a person has this unique understanding or understanding of their unique traits, they can then work with the clinician and through the Leadership Academy and put what they've learned into practice at these entrepreneurial opportunities. And so here's an example. Let's say somebody scores high on empathy. They could then go on to volunteer at an assisted living facility or a hospital. And through this engagement, they discover something they'd never known before. They discover that not only do they love doing this type of service, but they're pretty darn good at it as well. And what will ultimately happen, they can go from that experience and decide to pursue a career in healthcare. And go on and work in the field and then help others through not only their vocation, but then through their collaboration and participation in their lives. Another example, and this actually is a case study. This actually happens. So let's say somebody scores high on creativity, right? The client, let's say you have a client that loves art. They love drawing, they love painting, but they've never really pursued it as a career, right? And through the Leadership Academy, they are connected to an entrepreneurial opportunity in education at a local university that has scholarships available for those in recovery. And they love it. They love what they're doing. They can see themselves working in that field for the rest of their lives. They go on and complete their bachelor's degree, and they start doing shows and eventually launch their own advertising company, hire others, and then they create a nonprofit to help local kids learn how to paint as a response to stress and trauma in their lives. You can do the same with culinary arts, graphic design, theater. The possibilities are endless. This also leads to the launch of new types of businesses, which increase employment rates in the community. And here's why this piece of the model is so vital, is so critical, is so important, because we can give people all the tools for recovery. But if they just go back home and isolate without never meaningfully connecting to their communities, we've done them no good. And so this encourages the connection to community. This encourages an exploration of our traits and our treasures, right? This approach closes and addresses that gap. It requires us to be engaged, requires us to be connected. We can't go home and isolate. We've got to be engaged. Connects people to their communities, provides a healthy outlet for personal expression, and fosters a sense of hope, purpose, and fulfillment for the future. Now, to hear how these stories play out, I'd like to invite Brian Previtt to the podium.